Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Well, welcome everyone to another beautiful podcast. We're here today and just looking forward to having a wonderful, wonderful time with our guest here today. And I just want to let all our listeners know that this is the Healing Generation podcast sponsored by the National Comadres Network. And I am feeling good. I'm coming to you from the Bay, from the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's a chilly day today. But there's the beauty in that, right? Mm-hmm. The beauty, we've had some beautiful rain for the plants and just enjoying the clear air. So I'm just feeling really good this morning. Maestra Susie, how are you doing today?
Oh, gracias a Dios. I woke up and we have Tata Sol just shining. We did have the rain, so the plants are very, very happy over here. Just grateful for another precious day of life and breath and just looking forward to this podcast today with our very special guest, Maestra CC. Welcome, Maestra. So honored to be here with you. Heard so much about you and the work that you do, and been looking forward to a long time to actually talking with you, sitting with you. I can't wait till we can sit together in person. Mm-hmm. So much I've learned through my hermana Patti Cardenas, one of your students. She just adores you, and you've just been a life changer for her. And I've seen the change, and she's walking those teachings and she's practicing them. So I look forward to learning from you as well. And I know those listeners that are listening here today are going to be so grateful as well. I know you have so much to share. Probably we need to do like 5 podcasts with you.
Right?
Yeah, that could be done. But just very honored to be sitting in your presence, Maestra.
Buenos días, Cualitonali. Un hermoso día here in the Santa Ana Pueblo, Tamaya land in Nuevo Mexico. Tazo Kamati for this blessing and this opportunity to share este círculo de palabra, through technology. So, bendiciones a todos.
I was wondering if maybe you can, for those of our listeners, you could just share a little bit. We'll start with maybe a little bit about your story, your journey, and how you got started, and your familia, and what got you to this point.
Well, I'm going to introduce myself the traditional way. My name is Cuatli Siwats. Itza Isdan. My Christian name is Laura Alonso, but I was given Cuatli Siwats, the Chiquita, from my maternal grandma, and Itza Isdan through my paternal lineage. I am the founder of a Calpuli in Nuevo Mexico, Calpuli Teocalli. We're a community of all different backgrounds learning the ancestral medicine aquí in Nuevo Mexico. I'm the granddaughter of Casimira Rocha y Melesio Sanchez. I'm the daughter of Ascensión Alonso and Celia Sanchez. I have a life partner, Disanti Nava, and I also have a legal husband, Michael Franklin. I'm a mother, a grandmother, and I'm a two-spirit being. My ancestral background is Ramuri, Huasteca, Mexica, Lipana Pache through my dad, and a little dash of Sicilian in there, just a little mixture. In the community here in Nuevo Mexico, I'm seen as a maestra, as a consejera, temazcalera. And also I do a lot of work with the Lipana Pache of South Texas, that's where my original home is from. I'm seen as a medicine woman. An auntie, tengo muchos nephews and nieces through this path. But I'm also a clinical social worker in the Western model. I have a doctorate in public health and community education. I did go to law school. I don't practice. And I did some time in the Army. I'm an ex-drill sergeant. That tends to scare people off a little bit sometimes. In the Mexica, as I said before, in this tradition, people know me as Maestra CC. I don't go by my Christian name. I go by Cuatli Siwa, and so people can't pronounce it, and so we cut it down to CC. I don't consider myself a maestra, but the community gave that to me a long time ago. Been walking this medicine for a little over 50 years, since I was very, very, very young, raised by my abuelita y mi mamá uh, in South Texas, San Benito, Texas, and Tampico, Mexico, going back and forth through the borders, learning the medicina, respecting and honoring the hierbitas and the prayers and the rituals of my ancestors. And through the years, I've learned a lot of ritual and prayers and ceremonies. And even when I was in the military, people will come to me and say, "I hear that you do limpias." As a drill sergeant, it was kind of a no-no to do that, right? But we do what we can to serve our gente, even in the military. So I learned to integrate social practices with the rituals and ceremonies from my abuelitos. And I've done a lot of work with veterans, especially the OIF, OEF people coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq, which is very hard work and very heart work, also corazon work.
Yes.
I'm not your regular curandera. I tell people when they say they want to take an apprenticeship or have an appointment with me, I tell them I'm an educated, compassionate, chingona curandera that says the F word a lot. I like tequila and rock and roll. I dance till I can't move the next day. I enjoy a good cigar. I love deeply. I'm two-spirit. I get pissy. I serve my country. In your face, do the work. Release the caca curandera. I'm not going to kumbaya you or foo-foo you with new agey technology methods. Pero I'm here to be a service to the community. And if you do the work and we co-create with Creator, the three of us can guide you and support you and uplift you back into your path. And so I've been doing this a long time. Sometimes I get a little deviated. Our paths are like the serpiente, the serpent, There's all these curvas, and sometimes we take those turns and get sidetracked a little bit. But I'm always back into my path. The medicina always calling me, always calling me. The pandemic has given me a blessing in a way to go inward. I've done a lot of work in my jardín around ancestral medicine. I rise each day to continue on this path. I'm not sure if you're aware that I'm fighting stage 4 cancer. This is my third bout with cancer. This is my last bout. Ya no hay nada. And so I'm enjoying the time I have here. Creator is our ultimate timekeeper. And as long as I have breath, and as long as I can have this sometimes body, the Judas, rise up in the morning, I will share this medicine unconditionally with no judgment to those who find their way to me, because I don't have a card. I don't have a website. I told one of my students, I got conned into having an IG account, but I don't advertise, and somehow people always seem to find me. So that's a little bit about myself, con la bendición de Creator y mi abuelita, que le tengo más miedo que Creator. Aquí estoy a sus órdenes.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes those of our relatives that are in the physical form, right, the material form, we do fear more. Yeah, somehow they can reach out and grab our oreja and jalarlo, right?
Oh, yes. Mi abuelita con las orejas siempre.
Yeah, that's right. Maestra, so, I understand that, si puedo decirlo en esta manera, right?
Sí.
You were born into these ways. And given that, right, because there's many people that have been born into the ways. But I want to ask you, when did that awakening that brought you? Because we can be exposed to these ways, but then there's always something pivotal that happens within our life that then all of a sudden como que nos prende el foco, right? That light bulb goes off, and then there's a new realization that is birthed in us to then really embrace these ways in such a manner that then our life takes a different course. And I'm just wondering, can you share with our audience, how did that happen for you, that those cultural teachings came alive and manifested, that influenced you to walk in the way that you walk, that has brought you to this point?
That's a great question. I think it's been many things along my life. I was 9 days old when my mom gifted me to my abuelita. So I was born in the United States and did the whole border crossing a lot. But I was raised in Tampico, Mexico, till I was like 14. And so I didn't know anything different. I didn't even know I was a US citizen until my abuelita passed away when I was 14. And so
Hmm.
ritual and ceremony was everything, every day, every minute, every hour with her. From the milpa to the hierbas to el agua to el sol, todo. That's all I knew. And so when she passed away, it was such a trauma for me because that was my life. That was my vida. That was my corazón. And so my tios and my tias didn't know what to do with me because I do have a biological mother in the United States. So they put me in this in the bus from Ciudad Madero, Tampico, and they sent me to Brownsville, Texas. Here I am, 14, con my trenzas all the way down below my behind, and
Hmm.
huaraches and vestida como India, and I'm entering this country that is mine, but I don't no
Hmm.
lo conozco. I don't know it, right? And
Hmm.
I get off the bus, and oh my gosh, it was a cultural shock for me. And at that point, my relationship with my biological mom was not a holistic relationship. And so she didn't have room for me. And I ended up in the
Hmm.
streets. I ended up in the streets, surviving between 14 and 17, selling my body to eat,
Hmm.
not knowing what was coming into my life the next morning, each morning, right? And so one day I found myself in this Catholic church garden and still there in the valley of Tejas, Brownsville, San Benito, Harlingen, all that. And I was just desahogando and crying and asking La Virgen, Don Ancini, tanto aprender, so much learning of the medicina, ¿para qué, right? Here I am sola
Hmm.
and sin nada, and I asked for a sign. And so the doors of the iglesia, the church, opened, and I looked up, and there was this really short little. And today's St. Patrick's Day, so it's kind of connection. So there was this short little a nun, Irish nun, that came out of
Wow.
the puerta, and next to her was a Gregorian priest that came out without me even knowing. They came to me and they held me and they hugged me and they comforted me, and they offered me a place to stay. I did not know what their story was, but they had just left their spiritual order to get married, and they took me
Wow.
in as their daughter. They adopted me, and so
Wow.
I ended up between between about 14 and a half to about 17 and a half with them. And they took care of me. I wasn't doing any medicine with them. I was involved with the community service that they were doing because they were providing service to the community in their own way outside of the structure religion, right? And so I ended up signing up for the military because I wanted a way out. I needed something more, and against their I guess permission, and they didn't want me to join the military. I went ahead and joined it. Still not back into the ancestral medicine. I had felt lost and lost, right? I ended up in the military, and it was good for me because it's structured also in its own way. I'm not advocating for people to join the military, but it does have its ritual and ceremonial stuff. And so that helped me. But I ended up falling in love with this man, and we were stationed in Germany, and there was a huge military incident, and he died. It broke me.
Mm.
It broke me. It broke me, and because I saw him blow up into pieces, and
Mm.
it 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 gave me this fragmentation of myself. I had lost my grandmother, I had lost my biological mother, I had lost my culture, mi tierra, Mexico, right? I had didn't know si era de
Mm.
aquí or de allá, and I had lost this
Mm.
man, and so I spiraled. I spiraled a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I drank. I had all this relationships, one night stands, and you know,
Yeah.
and then I found out that I was pregnant, and my abuelita came to me in a dream y dijo, ya eres tiempo que te levantes, mija, amárrate los calzones porque tienes trabajo que hacer, you know?
Mm.
So I started to use those tools that I knew as a chiquita. I gave myself my limpias, mis baños, mis tecitos, honoring my pancita that was carrying life, and trying to find myself again. Basically, I gave myself my own soul retrieval, right? Trying to bring those fragmented parts back to myself. And so that was one major turn in my life where I returned back to my medicina, even though I never really left and it never really left me. I kind of got deviated from it. Uh,
Mm.
I know that's a long way to say, to tell you a little bit about that. And then I just stayed with the medicina. I gave birth to my children. I got married. Found some different teachers. I was one of the first people to work with Elena Avila in New Mexico. I felt a
Mm.
really connection with her. She was just starting to bring curanderismo into New Mexico, where I ended up after my military service. So she helped me and guided me and supported me and lifted me and other maestros and maestros.
Mhm.
And years later, I discovered I had breast cancer, and I went through that. And then I ended up with pancreatic cancer. And I
Wow.
to get back to your question, I think that time when I was going through my cancer gave me another reason to return to my roots more deeply and become more aware. The one with
Mm.
the pancreatic cancer wasn't something that was going to kill me because they have found it in such a timely manner. But the anesthesia during the surgery created a big reaction in me, and I went into a coma for 13 days.
Wow.
And my family was going to take me off of life support, and I ended up waking up when they were taking the tubes up. But I came back
Wow.
different. I wasn't Laura anymore. I wasn't Laura. I wasn't drill sergeant anymore. I wasn't mom. I wasn't a wife anymore. I was different. I didn't remember all that. The only thing I
Mm.
remember was that my name was Cotley Siwat. I didn't respond to Laura. I didn't respond to anything else except CC.
Mm.
And I started to embrace everything that I felt was authentic for me at that time. And I ended up having a very brutally honest, authentic conversation with my husband at that time, my legal husband, who is an Irishman. I call him the leprechaun. And I was able to share that I was two spirit. I have always been two spirit, and
Mm.
that I didn't feel that we should continue our marriage. And he was so loving and so supporting that he said, "It's about damn time that you spoke your truth. I want you healthy and happy. And if
Mm.
this is who you're going to be, I support you 100%." Yeah,
Mm.
I was totally not ready for that unconditional love and support.
Mm.
By this time, I had already met my life partner, who is a transgender man, and We've been together 10 years this summer. I'm still legally married. The three of us live together in a very beautiful, loving family unit that we call the eclectic trio. My yeah, and I feel that that was another turning point of embracing the medicina and accepting the two spirit path in this medicine path. Because later, through talking to my tias y todo eso, I realized and learned that my grandmother was also two spirit. She had her comadre, right? But nobody
Right.
talked about it, right?
Right.
And my abuelita was very supportive of that. And so I think those three major situations in my life have really made me stronger, have really
Oh,
made
yeah.
me uh, more firme. You know, everybody talks about firme. I feel like these three things have really planted me and rooted me in esta tierra.
Beautiful.
Powerful, powerful mujer. Amazing spirit. Like as you're talking about all the things you've had to endure and go through, and especially at such a young age, I can't even imagine. And that's why I'm going to ask you what everything you've been challenged with and all the obstacles that have been put in your path, and even right now as you're dealing with your health crisis, you're still solid, you're still strong, you still are committed and devoted to serve creator and keep these traditions alive in spite of everything. You've been blessed with a beautiful marriage and a partner to be your pillars of strength and help you to continue going forward. What is it? And I know that listeners would want to know as well, what are those key things that have given you the strength to continue to rise and persevere in spite of all obstacles? What are those things? I know I've been in these deep places sometimes, and I've really had to dig deep to be able to just snap out of it and just come on, you got to get up. You can't stop now. You have to keep going. And I found those things for myself. What if you would be so kind to share? What are those things that you dig deep for to help you get up every day and just keep going and serving?
Oh, I'm not sure if I have the answer. I just know that the foundation that my abuelita casi gave me to have my feet in la tierra, en Madre Tierra, and always know where I come from, that our people eran guerreros, guerreras, that were connected to the milpas, that were connected to the elements. You know, I always return when I feel like ya no puedo, that I can't anymore, that I have this hogar and this hogar, this hogar. And then I hear her say, levántate y amárrate los calzones, because you still have
Mm-hmm.
work to do, I hear that all the time. And I'm just grounded into the history of all the mujeres that have walked before me. I have a granddaughter, one granddaughter among three grandsons, and I always feel that she will carry that. My hijitas and hitos in the Calpuli, siempre les digo, always find that one little tiny root at the bottom of your feet to connect you to Madre Tierra. Because life is going to give you chingaderas. There's a lot of caca out there, and we got to sit in that. We got to sometimes
Yeah.
smear it and then wipe it up and get up. Porque nadie is going to walk your path. You have to walk your path. And I don't like to say that everything happens for a reason. Sometimes, tragedy comes and we don't understand it, and we don't have to understand it. But we do need to walk through that fire. We do need to limpiar with that agüita bendita. We do need to stick our feet in the tierra. We do need to stand with our arms open and let the wind dalos una limpia. Those elements are our ancestors. Those elements are in our blood. Those elements carry us when we can't any longer. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm human. There are days when I feel like ya no puedo, creator. I rather just cross over and transition. Ya no puedo. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Pero I wake up in the morning and then I go, okay, what am I gonna do today? I gotta weed my jardín. I gotta take care of the dogs. I have a guinea hen that I have to feed. So I'm not sure there's an answer, but I feel that we all do have that strength within us and that power. And if we don't see it, then we need to find someone to help us see it. We need to find a comadre, a compadre, an hermano, an hermana, whoever it is to help us. Because somebody along the way, all my path me dieron la mano. And so it is our turn to give the mano to others. And sometimes we give that mano to ourselves, right? And so, amarres en los calzones, because, man, we got work to do. We got work to do. Y todavía estamos aquí to do it.
Gracias,
Yes,
Maestra.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. You mentioned something that, personally, I don't think we talk enough about. And that is the two-spirit journey. And I know that within this society, and especially with such a colonized and a European influence, right? We tend to look sometimes at situations that are in a very linear, in a very dichotomized, in a very separating and labeling way. And I love that you so honestly shared about your own experience. Because I think sometimes when we look at situations and you mention, okay, I have a husband and I have a life partner. And sometimes, we look at these situations within the definition of the way society puts it and says, well, you need to have it one way or you need to have it another way.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, when I look at creation, I look at the variety and the fluidity that's there, and I ask myself many times, why do we allow ourselves to get taken, by some of these thoughts? But I would love for you to share a little bit more within a cultural perspective of the blessing sometimes, that comes along with these situations and your perspective on the two-spirit, within healing.
Wow. Don't make it easy.
Take your time. Take your time.
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. I know that for myself, I can only speak for myself, is that I knew that as chiquita, that gender was not something I was focused on, because in a lot of Mexican pueblos, you see exchange of those identities. I have primos and primas who walk the opposite of their assigned biological gender, and so I wasn't. It wasn't a shock for me, even though I didn't understand a lot of it when I would see my abuelita with her comadre. It wasn't something that I grew up thinking that it should be shameful until I entered the United States. My biological mom did not understand it, and I think that was a lot of the discord and the conflict that we had. She used the term malflora. So, for those that don't know, that is bad flower. I was a bad flower, right? And so she always told me I was a malflora. And so it was just something that, as in my late teens to my mid 20s, late 20s, I saw in a negative way all the labels within society, the colonized terminology and the labeling, especially in the military. We had to do not ask, don't tell, right? And so I always had that fear, how about if they find out, and it wasn't a matter that I liked girls. It was a matter that I didn't see gender. When my heart loved, I loved the soul and the spirit of the person, and the corazón, not what was in front of me in a manifestation of a man or a woman. It was the corazon.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also that placed fear, whether it was consciously or unconsciously, society did that to me. And so I walked as a straight woman, and had my children, but I knew down deep inside I wasn't authentic. And the anesthesia coma incident was a blessing for me, because during those 13 days, I traveled through all the ethers, from the very tiny, tiny, tiny spark of my birth light to thousands and thousands and thousands up, before me in the future, of where my still fire light is going to be. And I learned that everything is two spirit. Las plantitas, los animales, las
Mm-hmm.
gentes, the bird, todo, everything is two spirit. And that it was a ceremony within itself to carry both energies, because whatever your belief system is around the terminology ometeo, because I know there's a lot of conflict around that term, I was taught through those 13 days of traveling spiritually that we all carry the male and the female, and integrating it is how we become authentic. And
Mm-hmm.
so the military for me was my way of still being a female, but still embracing my male energy, because I was a good drill sergeant. Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I was a good drill sergeant. You ask my sons, and so when I awoke from that, I literally loved myself, accepted myself, and embraced myself as a two spirit woman being. Not a woman, but as a being.
Mm-hmm.
And it has taken me years. I'm turning 60 este año.
Wow.
It has taken me years to be able to say that I am a two spirit being. And to say that to my siblings, mi ama, who's 96 years old, took a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, si ganas or strength, but it took a lot for me to say it. Still trembling, still with a little fear, still with tears,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to speak my truth. And I got to the point where this is who I am. Si no me quieren así, if you can't love me like this, then I'm okay of walking away from you. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in our culture, we have to walk away from labels and systems that box us in, from
Mm-hmm.
being so colonized, and from being so placed in a submissive position. uh, and we have to say, no, it's not okay for you to say, I can't be this way.
Yes.
And it is okay for me to have you fuck off and get out of my life. So if you permit me, I want to read from Gloria Sandua, because she was a very powerful, and for many people, but she was very powerful for me. I got to meet her when I was in high school for one of her first books. So I want to read this quote from her.
Mm-hmm.
My Chicana identity is grounded in the India woman's history of resistance. The Aztec female rites of mourning were rites of defiance, protesting the cultural change which disrupted the equality and balance between female and male, and protesting their demotion to a lesser status, their denigration. Like the Llorona, the Indian woman's only means of protest was wailing. So the word wailing for me has been like this light bulb of saying, this is who I am. Esto soy la que soy. Because for those years that I grew walking supposedly as a straight woman, my hair was blonde or red. My eyes had blue contacts. My name was
Wow.
Lori, no Laura, So I was Lori walking around with ojos azules and mi hair pintado so I could be what? Colonized, you know? So like the Llorona, I wailed y me deshogar until I could be CC. It took me years to understand that we are the Lloronas, and we have to embrace that wailing, because that's how
Yeah.
we can express our true feelings inside of our corazon and our alma and our spirits, right? We have to deshogar todo, all
Yes.
that we have been, those learned behaviors to fit into this colonization world that we were originally from. And so
Mm-hmm.
I embrace being a two spirit being. I love and accept and embrace myself. I walk authentically with my transgender partner. And I have the support, the both of us have a support of my legal husband. And if the world cannot accept that, pues que les vaya bien, you know? There's room for other people to enter. So I don't know if that
Yes.
answers your
Yeah.
question, but we
Beautiful.
have been here for centuries, and we are being seen more now because our
Mm-hmm.
wailing is being heard.
Mm.
Wow. Thank you so much for being willing to be so transparent and open. It is something that we're really wanting to expand, and this next generation. We really want to understand and embrace everyone, and remind them of their sacredness and who they are, and to create spaces so they can be accepted and be who they are as they show up.
Mhm.
So it's very we're learning and we want to learn.
One of the initial reasons why I created a calpuli, because we didn't fit in the regular calpulis. At that
Mm,
time, back
Mm.
in my 20s, 40 years ago, we didn't fit in those calpulis. We were
mm-hmm,
not
Mm-hmm.
accepted in those calpulis.
mm-hmm,
And so we have a joke in my calpuli that, I gather all the puppies and kittens, all the misfits, and I take all colors, all genders, all backgrounds, all spiritual paths, because I saw and con mucho respeto with everybody that walks how they walk in their calpuli, but we felt that we just didn't fit in. And so with this calpuli, I make a point that it's LGBTQIA, all those letters, todos los colores del rainbow, all the spiritual paths from all around the world. I have Buddhists, I have Muslims, todo, because we needed to find space for us to do
Mm.
our
Mm.
ceremonies, our medicine.
right.
Mm.
And this was it for a long time. Now, of course, it's being more open, and I'm so grateful for that. But that was my main point, to have this calpuli.
Wow.
We're so fortunate for that. As we're coming to the end of our podcast, Maestra, is there anything that you would like to offer, some consejos for this next generation that you feel would help them as they continue to grow and do their own healing?
I think the main thing is speak your truth.
Ah,
Speak your truth.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Don't be, don't allow anyone to silence your truth. Whether it's right or wrong, that is your palabra, that is your sagrada palabra, that's your sacred word, and walk your truth. I really encourage everyone, including myself at times, to remind me, this, okay, Tata Dios, you gave me another morning. How am I going to use my truth, for good for my community, for good for myself,
Mm-hmm.
for my
Yeah.
familia? And that truth that comes out of our mouth, how does that represent the generations that walked before us and the generations that are going to walk ahead of us? That truth that comes is energy and is out
Mm-hmm.
there in the universe. So just speaking your truth, be mindful of how you say your truth,
mm,
because it is sacred. Us saying our truth with our serpent tongues, with the two
mm-hmm,
borders that we come from, language, culture, spirituality, land, um, it is sacred. It's ceremony. So using la lengua de la serpiente, the tongue of the serpent, remember that it is ceremony. Our truth is ceremony. So that's always I tell my students and my speak your truth. Don't allow people or anyone or society to box you in. Who are you? Speak it, say it, own it, and you will find your authentic path that way. The truth that we say today may not be our truth tomorrow, but
Right.
tomorrow's truth will still be our truth, right?
Right.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I would like to share one more quote of Gloria Sandua. Her words are just so powerful for many.
Mm-hmm.
To separate from my culture, as from my family, I had to feel competent enough on the outside and secure enough inside to live life on my own.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yet in leaving home, I did not lose touch with my origins because lo mexicano is in my system. I am a turtle. Wherever I go, I carry home on my back.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Gracias, maestra.
Tasacamate ustedes.
I tell you, that's why these podcasts are so powerful, and for the audience out there, that's why you never want to miss it. This is like, where are you going to get this information? Where are you going to hear words that come across this way? You know, I'll tell you, Maestra, it has been a pleasure this morning to be with you, and I don't want to let you go yet. Because this is just content that you don't hear all the time. And so we asked you, for that consejo. But I want, before we end,
Mhm.
I want you to give some words de aliento, encouragement out there to the LGBT community, two-spirit community that finds themselves in situations, especially during this time of COVID. We hear that, suicidal rates, drug addiction, the violence has gone up. And what palabras can you give them, de aliento, right, of encouragement to help them through this time or help us?
Reach
Mm-hmm.
out, reach out, reach out. Don't ever believe that there is not a way out. Reach out.
Mm,
The pandemic has clearly given a lot of darkness, pero siempre hay luz. The light is out. The pandemic can be seen as a gift of going in and really working on our inner healing and then coming out as a light. So there's a lot of resources out there for suicide. Transgender Resource Center in Albuquerque has been a life sent for me and my partner because I didn't know anything about transgender at that time. And so I learned to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but always reach out. There's a lot of numbers out there. Find me on IG. I'm at NM Curandera. I will talk to you, DM me, email me.
mm,
There's a lot of comadres and compadres and abuelitas and abuelitos that will definitely bring you into their heart. No están solos. You're
mm.
not alone. You may feel that you're out there with no resources, but there's always light at the end. There's always light at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you today, and I want to thank all of our listeners that are out there that joined us today. I know without a shadow of a doubt that there was a word that was spoken here today on this podcast that has brought light and healing into your life and that resonated with you and and it was the word you needed to hear for today. And so we want to thank you, and we want to thank you because joining us today was a decision you made. You could have been so many places today, but you decided to join us today, and we're grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say that you can find us on the National Compadres Network. Go on that online and just look for National Comadres, and you will see the resources that are offered to you in addition to the podcast. And we have a wonderful Instagram and message, affirmation that goes out monthly called Café con Leche. where you will get a recipe of how to make a beautiful cafecito. And at the end, you're going to have a beautiful, uplifting palabra for your month. And so we want to thank you. And so with that, Maestra CC, thank you so much for lending your time this morning to be with us. We are so grateful and have definitely had some healing here this morning. And so with that, we're going to sign off for today's podcast. This is Maestra Deborah.
Maestra Susana Armijo.
And with the guest of Maestra CC
Dr.
this
Comadre.
morning. Thank you. Bendiciones. Bendiciones.
Gracias.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.